Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, Berkshire Hathaway goes all in on big tech. Microsoft accidentally leaks the biggest secret in the AI arms race. And a cookie company tries to sell you 5 Cokes worth of sugar in a single cup.
Yeah, and I mean, behind every single one of those shiny PR announcements, there's always someone quietly losing a fortune or, just bracing for the regulatory hammer to drop.
Exactly. So today's wire is just this chaotic mix. We're looking at trillion-dollar capital allocation, the automation of human intelligence, and honestly, some incredibly bizarre cultural side effects happening in the background.
It's a lot to process for one deep dive, that's for sure.
It really is.
Ah.
Let's just start with the lead story tearing up the finance space today because it represents a massive paradigm shift. There's this viral post from @TrunkToyFan that perfectly captures what just happened.
Right, the Berkshire move.
Yeah, so Warren Buffett steps down, and the new Berkshire Hathaway CEO, Greg Abel, immediately deploys a staggering $16.8 billion. He drops $10 billion straight into Alphabet, so Google, and $6.8 billion into the home builder, Taylor Morrison.
I mean, the ink on Buffett's retirement is barely dry, and suddenly the war chest is just wide open.
Which feels like giving the keys of a pristine, classic vintage car to a teenager who immediately enters an underground street race. Like, Berkshire is the absolute temple of patient value investing, right? Buying railroads and insurance.
Yeah, totally.
So is this aggressive tech pivot completely abandoning that classic ethos?
Well, it looks like a reckless street race from the outside, sure, but you really have to look at the macro environment. Is Greg Abel just buying into a top-of-market AI bubble out of sheer FOMO? I mean, unlikely.
Right. Berkshire doesn't really do FOMO.
Exactly. What's more probable is that Berkshire understands something fundamental about Google's moat that traditional value investors are just underestimating. I mean, if compute is the new oil, capital allocation has to shift.
Shift from traditional physical commodities to digital infrastructure, you mean?
Right. They are applying value investing principles to a completely new reality. The data center is essentially the new railroad.
Hold on, I want to test that theory because this Berkshire bet perfectly collides with today's Microsoft Build 2026 news.
Oh yeah, the Mustafa Suleyman announcements.
Yeah, Mustafa Suleyman, Microsoft's AI CEO, just got on stage and announced 7 new models. But the crown jewel is MAI Thinking 1.
Which is a pretty wild model.
Right. The headline stat is that it's a 35 billion active parameter mixture of experts model. It scored a 97% on the AME 2025 math benchmark, and early results show it beating OpenAI's GPT 5.5 at a 10x lower cost for enterprise clients like McKinsey.
That cost drop is the real story there, honestly.
But before we get to the cost drop, let's break down the jargon for anyone not building neural networks all day. What exactly makes a mixture of experts model different?
Okay, so think of a traditional AI model like a general practitioner doctor. You go in, and that one doctor tries to diagnose everything from a broken bone to a rare autoimmune disease. The whole brain lights up for every single prompt.
Sounds exhausting for the computer.
It is. It's computationally expensive. A mixture of experts, or MOE, works more like a massive hospital system. There is a router at the front desk.
Okay.
So when you ask a coding question, the router sends it only to the specific cluster of neural pathways, the experts, that are trained on syntax. When you ask a math question, it routes to a completely different cluster.
So it's not firing on all cylinders all the time. It's just waking up the parts of the brain it actually needs.
Precisely. That is what active parameters means. The model might have, say, 1 trillion parameters in total, but it only uses 35 billion of them for any single task.
Wow. Okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah, and that is exactly how Microsoft is achieving that 10x lower cost. They're running this highly efficient architecture on their custom MEI A200 silicon, bypassing NVIDIA's markup entirely, and they're getting 30% better performance per dollar.
I see the technical achievement, definitely. But let's connect this to the bigger picture. Are they just trying to win a benchmark war here, or is there a deeper strategy?
Oh, it's definitely a deeper strategy. The real story isn't the shiny benchmark score. It's Microsoft deliberately commoditizing AI.
Commoditizing it how?
By driving the cost of intelligence effectively to zero. That's how they trap enterprise users inside their ecosystem. Look at the other updates on the wire today.
You mean the Windows 11 stuff?
Yeah, at MZev announced they're bringing Linux-like workflows, specifically core utils, natively to Windows 11.
Wait, explain why that matters to a non-developer. Like, why is Linux stuff on Windows such a big deal?
Well, historically, developers hated building on Windows because it lacked the standard, powerful command line tools that Linux systems have. By natively baking those tools, the coroutils, into Windows, Microsoft is basically removing the last piece of friction.
Got it. So they're making it too easy to leave.
Exactly. And then combine that with the post from at Steepy today.
Hmm.
He noted that OpenClaw, the open source agent platform, famous for its little red lobster mascot.
The lobster, I've seen that.
Right, so they're partnering with Microsoft for enterprise deployments. Microsoft doesn't really care if they make a profit on the MAI Thinking One model itself. That model is just a lossal leader.
So they're building the ultimate walled garden.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, give away the hyper-efficient AI, give away the open-source lobsters, give the developers the Linux tools they want, just so long as every single workflow, data pipeline, and billing cycle happens inside Azure and Windows?
It is the classic embrace, extend, extinguish playbook. They're building a massive digital gravity well.
But to build a gravity well, you still need raw mind-bending power. Which brings us to, honestly, the wildest moment of the day, the accidental leak.
Oh, man, yeah. The leak.
At Swix and at Scaling 01 captured this on X. During Suleiman's stage presentation on scaling, a slide for a Project Glasswing partner flashed on the screen.
And it wasn't supposed to be there.
No, not at all. It accidentally leaked the training FLOPs for Anthropic's unreleased Claude Mythos model. The number, 6.1 times 10 to the 27th FLOPs.
Which really forces you to ask, was this a genuine slick-up from an AV guy backstage? Or was this Microsoft quietly flexing its competitive intelligence to, intimidate rivals?
Accidentally leaking your biggest competitor's most classified capability metric during your own keynote. That is a very specific type of psychological warfare.
Is the ultimate power move.
Yeah.
It's basically saying, we see you. We know exactly what you're doing.
But let's pause on that number for a second. 6.1 E27 FLOPs. A FLOP is a floating point operation, right? A basic unit of computational math, like adding two decimals.
Right, exactly.
For you listening right now, try to conceptualize the number of grains of sand on Earth and then square it. The compute curve for training these models has been growing by about 4.4x every single year since 2010.
It's an exponential curve.
So what does a 6.1 E27 FLOP training run actually look like in physical reality? Like, what does that take?
Well, it looks like gigawatt-scale data centers.
Yeah.
It looked like dedicated nuclear reactors just to keep the cooling systems running.
Nuclear reactors just for cooling.
Yeah. It requires hundreds of thousands of interconnected GPUs operating flawlessly for months. The capital expenditure to hit that number is so astronomical that the barrier to entry has become a fortress.
So who can even afford to compete if the entry ticket is 6.1 E27 FLOPs?
Almost no one. We're looking at an oligopoly of maybe 3 companies on Earth who can play this game at that level.
Which brings us full circle to why Greg Abel just dropped $10 billion on Google.
Exactly. He isn't buying a software company. He is buying one of the 3 sovereign nations of compute.
Okay, so the megacaps are cementing their dominance. But what does this mean for the rest of us? I mean, the white-collar workforce isn't running trillion-dollar funds or gigawatt data centers.
No, they're not.
And the wire today is flashing red for the concept of human expertise in general.
Yeah, we're really witnessing the automation of judgment, not just task execution.
Let's look at software engineering first. At OpenAI just dropped a feature for Codex called Sites. Have you seen this?
I have. It's wild.
It allows completely non-technical people, like business analysts, marketers, HR reps, to turn their ideas into fully interactive, deployable web apps simply by typing a prompt and getting a URL.
Right. And the immediate consequence there is that the value of simply writing syntax drops to 0.
But doesn't this feel a bit like giving a printing press to people who only know how to read? Sure, anyone can push a button and generate a web app, but if they don't understand the underlying code, how do they fix it when it breaks?
That's a fair point.
Doesn't the value of traditional software engineering just sort of morph into something else?
Exactly. The value shifts from writing the code to systems architecture and risk management. And we actually see the infrastructure for that shift on the wire today, too.
Oh, you mean the weights and biases update?
Yeah, at Wandu, Weights and Biases launched a massive update to their Weave platform today. It automatically watches production AI agents end-to-end and blocks regressions without a human in the loop.
That sounds incredibly dystopian, like a surveillance state for AI agents. Is that hyperbole, or is that actually how it functions?
It is a literal machine-to-machine surveillance state. Here is how it works. When your marketing manager uses Codex to build an autonomous app, and that app starts executing workflows, making API calls, purchasing ads, sending emails.
Right, doing all the things.
Yeah, humans cannot operate at the millisecond speed required to monitor that, so Weave traces the execution graph of the agent. If the agent hallucinates and tries to execute a command that destroys the database, the Weave system intercepts and blocks it.
Wow. So it's basically the police force for the AI.
Pretty much. WMB isn't really building tools to help human developers debug code anymore. They are building the guardrails to ensure these autonomous agents don't accidentally break the economy.
Because the humans are completely outpaced. Okay, so syntax and basic development are getting eaten. But let's look at a field that prides itself entirely on bespoke, nuanced human judgment.
Law.
Law. At Andrew Curran _ shared a Stanford study today that should keep anyone charging billable hours awake tonight.
Oh, the pairwise comparison study. This is fascinating.
Yes. So in blind comparisons, 16 human law professors evaluated complex legal answers on contracts law. Gemini 2.5 Pro beat the human law professors 75.9% of the time.
That's a staggering margin.
It is. But here is the kicker. The AI only had a 3.5% harmfulness flag rate, meaning it gave dangerous or legally perilous advice, compared to a 12% harmfulness rate for the Stanford professors.
Yeah, that's the part that really matters.
How does an AI evaluate a contract differently and better than a tenured professor?
By entirely stripping out ego and fatigue. Think about it. A human lawyer reads a 200-page contract, gets tired around page 50, relies on heuristics, and takes aggressive gambles based on precedent they think they remember.
Right, they get sloppy.
Exactly. The AI has total instantaneous recall of all case law. It mathematically parses the semantic meaning of how Clause A on page 2 interacts with Clause B on page 180. Humans are demonstrably more reckless.
And the real insight here is the second-order effect on liability, isn't it?
100%. If you are a corporate client, you don't care about the philosophy of AI, you care about risk.
Right, reducing risk.
So if an AI is demonstrably safer, more accurate, and statistically less harmful at legal reasoning than a human expert, how long until it is considered legal malpractice not to use the AI lawyer?
Oh, wow. That is a massive paradigm shift. You don't get sued for using an AI, you get sued for relying only on a human.
The liability paradigm completely flips. Corporate insurance premiums will eventually require AI-first legal work. The human lawyer doesn't disappear, but they're reduced to a rubber stamp for the machine's primary analysis.
So law is getting eaten. Software is getting eaten. What about hard physical reality? Can AI actually touch the real world?
The answer today seems to be a resounding yes.
Yeah, so at Brendan BC2, the lead of AI for materials at Google DeepMind, posted that they are actively hiring physicists for a new autonomous lab.
This is where digital intelligence crosses the Rubicon into physical manipulation.
Right. They are running first principles quantum simulations that are then physically tested by robots. I want to break down first principles quantum simulations. From my understanding, instead of a scientist in a wet lab randomly mixing chemicals to see what happens, the AI simulates the literal quantum mechanics of how atoms will interact in a computer.
Exactly.
It finds the absolute optimal arrangement for a new material and then sends those instructions to a robot to physically synthesize it, a completely closed loop.
And look at the scale of what we're analyzing here.
Yeah.
Add in the news from at NASA today.
Yeah.
They are launching the Roman Space Telescope later this year to map dark energy and detect exoplanets.
Right, the macro scale.
Yeah, you have DeepMind analyzing reality at the quantum level, and NASA exploring reality at the cosmic level, and these hyperscaled AI models are sitting in the middle, processing both extremes of physics.
But the autonomous lab specifically creates a pretty wild scenario. If AI is no longer just predicting protein folds in a simulation, but actively designing a physical experiment, directing a robot to mix the chemicals, and analyzing the result, who owns the discovery?
That is the crisis that no regulatory body is prepared for. Not even close.
Like, if a closed-loop robot lab discovers a new room-temperature superconductor or synthesizes a cure for a specific rare cancer entirely on its own, who gets the patent?
Is it Google? The robotics manufacturer? The lab tech who flipped the power switch?
I mean, our entire intellectual property framework, going back centuries, is built on the fundamental concept of a human inventor.
Precisely. We're about to see the greatest legal battle in history over the IP generated by autonomous labs. And definition of value creation is basically being rewritten from the atomic level up.
It's a total redefinition of reality. And you would think, with all these existential, world-altering shifts happening in capital law and quantum science, that society would be having a deep philosophical reckoning.
You would think that, yeah.
But what does the timeline look like today? The culture is doing something entirely different.
The culture is doing what it always does in the face of massive technological shifts. It's finding new idols and inventing new distractions.
Let's pivot to the vibe, because it is surreal today. At Lex Fridman posted about hanging out with NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang in Taiwan for Computex 2026.
The night market story.
Yes. Lex says Jensen was mobbed at a night market while they were eating mango-shaved ice. And I don't mean a few people asking for selfies. I mean mobbed like they were the Beatles in 1964. Thousands of engineers screaming for him.
It is an incredible visual, honestly. Just a guy in his signature leather jacket, eating shaved ice in a night market, holding the literal future of the global economy in his pocket.
Right, like CEOs used to be these faceless, boring suits. Now they are literal pop stars. But I have to ask, is this genuine adoration for the man, or are people just worshiping the physical embodiment of the money printer?
Well, it's a collective recognition of where true sovereignty actually lies. The crowd in Taiwan understands something that the rest of the world is just waking up to.
Yeah.
Geopolitical power no longer rests in nation-states. It rests in silicon.
Because he controls the GPUs.
Exactly. Jensen Huang controls the supply chain of GPUs. He controls the physical compute power we just discussed, the 6.1 E27 FLOPs required to run the world. He isn't just a CEO, for all intents and purposes. He is a tech god holding the keys to the future.
Meanwhile, while Taiwan worships at the altar of compute, the general public in the West is financially weaponizing their outrage over baked goods.
Of course they are.
This next post from @Polymarket is the perfect distillation of 2026 culture. Crumble, the viral cookie company, just released a new dirty soda. And people are absolutely losing their minds on the timeline because it contains 186,000 milligrams of sugar.
Notice the deliberate grift in the phrasing there, 186,000 milligrams.
Right, because if you do the math, it's 186 grams, which is essentially 5 cans of Coke poured into a single cup. It's terrible for you, sure, but they say 186,000 milligrams to make it sound like a radioactive hazard.
Exactly, because Polymarket is a prediction market. People bet cryptocurrency on the outcomes of real-world events. Polymarket doesn't care about public health or nutritional science.
They just want the engagement.
Right. They deliberately amplified that viral, hyperbolic framing to drive liquidity to their betting pools. They want people outraged, because outraged people make irrational bets.
People are literally gambling crypto right now on whether a cookie company is going to get regulated by the FDA for making the public obese. It is the pure financialization of outrage. We're monetizing our own societal decay.
It is totally dystopian escapism.
So where do people actually go to escape all of this? When the tech gods are automating law and science and the finance bros are taking bets on your sugar intake, where is the last refuge of pure humanity?
Live sports.
Live sports. At Fabrizio Romano reports today that Ederson is signing with Manchester United until 2030 for around 35 to 38 million pounds to anchor Michael Carrick's midfield rebuild.
And then there's the Haaland post.
Yes, at the exact same time, Erling Haaland posts this majestic image of himself meditating on a mountain under a World Cup trophy, celebrating Norway qualifying for their first World Cup since 1998.
Now, some might wonder why we are including European football transfers on a macro tech wire.
It does seem a bit out of place.
Right, but it's because live sports represent the rising premium on human physical struggle. Look at the macro trend. As AI eats the white-collar world, as your lawyer, your coder, and your scientist become highly efficient algorithms, the value of watching a flawed, sweating human being execute a perfectly timed tackle skyrockets.
Because we don't want perfection everywhere.
Exactly. Sports is the last domain where we absolutely refuse to put a machine in the loop. We want the sweat, the fatigue, the human error in the narrative of the underdog. The more sterile and automated our work lives become, the more valuable, raw, human physical drama becomes.
That makes perfect sense. Let's synthesize the wire for the listener today, because we saw a massive, almost jarring contrast.
A very jarring contrast.
On one side, Greg Abel and Microsoft are placing multi-billion, trillion-dollar foundational bets on AI taking over the most complex judgment layers of our society, writing code, parsing legal contracts, and physically simulating quantum science.
And the compute barrier is now so high, requiring gigawatts of power, that almost no one can compete.
Right. And on the other side, the human public is completely detached. We are worshiping tech billionaires in night markets, we are gambling crypto on outrage over sugary sodas, and we are escaping into the raw drama of live sports.
So, given everything we've synthesized today, that Stanford professors are demonstrably losing to Gemini, and that AI models are crossing the 6.1 E27 FLOP threshold, here's my prediction for tomorrow.
Let's hear it.
We're going to see the first major organized strike or massive class action lawsuit from white-collar workers demanding strict human-in-the-loop mandates.
Wow, you really think so?
I do. The panic is rapidly moving from the blue-collar factory floor to the white-collar corner office. They're going to try to regulate the intelligence they can no longer outcompete.
That is fascinating. And that leaves you with one last thing to mull over as you navigate the rest of your day. If an AI can spin up a custom app from a single URL and negotiate a safer legal contract than a tenured Stanford professor and physically discover a new quantum material in a closed-loop robotic lab, what is the uniquely human skill you're going to leverage tomorrow?
It's a tough question.
The X-ray machine of our economy is showing a very different landscape beneath the surface. That's The Wire for today. Stay sharp, stay paranoid. We'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Vibecasting.